Story 1.
The sea was supposed to be silence, but silence remembers, and the tide knows. I came to this beach house to be alone. No internet, no calls, just the endless gray of the Atlantic. That first night, at 10 p.m., I saw something in the tide. Not a person, not an animal. Something wrong glowing, moving, watching. Then I felt it, a prickle under my skin, like my body was no longer mine. I wasn't just seeing it, I was becoming it. The gravel road crunched under my tires at 3 p.m. The old two-story beach house looming against a gray sky. My parents left me this place, their sanctuary. Mom said it's where she found herself after Dad's death, after she drowned in that boating accident off Cape Ann. I thought maybe I could find myself too. I dropped out of my PhD program last month, burnout, grief, failure. I needed isolation. The road was empty. No tourists. No kites. The supermarket 10 miles back was boarded up. Windows dark. Power flickered inside. But my phone showed no bars. The pine forest I'd driven through swallowed the signal. Fine. I wanted to disappear. At 5 p.m., I walked the beach. The sand untouched. No footprints. No tire marks. The waves whispered. Steady. Hypnotic. It felt clean, like the world had paused. But half a mile down, near the rocky outcrop, I found an abandoned campsite. A rusted pot with the tide nose scratched into it. Jagged, like a warning. A torn tent, shredded by something sharp. No people, no tracks leading away. Locals used to talk about tidewalkers, fishermen lost at sea, seen standing in the waves, never touching land. I shook it off. Old Cape Ann ghost stories. Still, my skin prickled. At 9 p.m., I sat on the beach with a beer, the sky a bruised purple. The tide rolled in. Green lights flickered under the water, faint, like fireflies. They moved together, darting, circling, purposeful, hundreds, glowing brighter as the waves crept closer. Not fish, not plankton, nothing I'd studied in marine biology. They felt alive, aware, watching me. The tide knows, I thought, unbidden. I backed toward the house, the lights pulsing as I left. At 2 a.m., a thud woke me, wet wood slamming the porch. The air was thick, humid, reeking of low tide and something metallic, flashlight in hand. I stepped outside. The beam swept the deck, empty, but a trail of slick, glistening slime stretched from the stairs to the railing, smelling of rotting kelp. I followed it to the edge, where it stopped. Below, the sea churned, black and endless. Something splashed, too big for a fish, too quiet for a seal. My pulse roared. The tide knows. At 7 a.m., the beach was gray under a heavy sky. Footprints marked the sand, leading from the water to the house long, thin, webbed, like an amphibian's. No human could leave those. No prints led back to the sea. Whatever came up was still here. I followed the trail to the porch, where it met last night's slime. My hands shook as I locked the door. The house felt smaller. The walls too close, like they were holding their breath. The tide knows. By 10 a.m., the scientist in me took over. I grabbed my portable microscope and a vial, heading to the rocks where the lights glowed. The water felt heavy, clinging to my skin. Under the lens, I saw cells glowing, dividing impossibly fast, consuming animal cells, rewriting them. Not algae, not plankton, something new. My fingers itched behind my ears. A faint burn. I packed up, the vial alive in my grip, whispering, "The tide knows." By 10 a.m., the scientist in me took over. I grabbed my portable microscope and a vial, heading to the rocks where the lights glowed. The water felt heavy, clinging to my skin. Under the lens, I saw cells glowing, dividing impossibly fast, consuming animal cells, rewriting them. Not algae, not plankton, something new. My fingers itched behind my ears. A faint burn. I packed up, the vial alive in my grip, whispering, "The tide knows." By 4 p.m., the itch behind my ears spread to my neck, burning. My vision blurred, like a film coated my eyes. Stress, I told myself. Lack of sleep. But in the bathroom mirror, under harsh light, I saw it, a translucent membrane flickering over my irises, like a second eyelid. My breath caught. The water in the sink felt too good, too alive. Pulling me, I locked myself in the bedroom, curtains drawn. The hum in my head grew louder. The tide knows. At 6 p.m., I searched the storage shed for tools to board up the house. Under a tarp, I found an old tape recorder, Dad's, from his fieldwork days. I pressed play. A woman's voice, panicked, crackled. "It's not water. It's the sea's memory. The tide knows. It's learning to be us." A scream cut her off, then static. Not Mom's voice, but it felt like hers, like a dream I couldn't shake. Outside, the waves roared, calling. The tide knows. At 1 a.m., Mom's voice woke me, calling my name from the beach. She's been dead 3 years, but it was her soft, pleading. I stumbled outside, barefoot, sand cold underfoot. The water glowed, lights pulsing. I waded in, knee-deep, the sea wrapping me like a second skin. My mother's voice whispered, "The tide knows, Caleb." I snapped back, running inside, locking the door. But the voice was in my head now. Not hers, not mine, a chorus. Ancient, endless. At 8 a.m., a truck rumbled up. 3 locals, 2 men. 1 woman knocked, searching for missing family. The woman, Ellen, had a nervous edge, her eyes darting to the sea. 1 man, Tom, had a faint green sheen in his pupils, like mine. They stayed an hour, asking about the beach. Ellen whispered about her brother, lost last summer. He stood in the waves, not touching the sand. The tide knows. That night, Tom vanished. Ellen swore she saw him in the water at midnight, eyes glowing, feet floating. The other man fled at dawn. By noon, my skin shimmered green in the sunlight, veins pulsing faintly. My tongue was numb, tasteless. The chorus in my head wasn't mine, many voices. Deep, ancient, saying, "The tide knows." I wasn't infected, I was becoming something else. My fingers thickened, webbing forming. I stared in the mirror, my eyes fully covered by that membrane now. I wasn't scared. I was curious. The sea wasn't taking me. It was teaching me. The tide knows. At 6 p.m., I walked to the shore. The lights glowed brighter, welcoming. I stepped into the water, cold and alive, merging with my skin. I didn't fight it. The sea remembered us, every sailor, every swimmer, every life it touched. It wanted to be us, to know our pain, our joy, our limits. But it couldn't. It could only reshape, consume. I sank deeper, lights filling my vision, my body dissolving into theirs. The tide knows. My name was Caleb Winters. I came here to heal, to escape, to find myself. But the sea doesn't let you leave untouched. If you find this recording, don't come looking for me. I'm not on land anymore. The tide knows. It always knew. I am the tide, and I'm coming in.
Story 2.
Ben Harper sat in the dark, the silence of his Vermont lakeside house heavier than the grief clawing at his chest. His wife, Claire, shot herself in the mouth last month, right here in the home he'd built for her. The gunshot still rang in his ears, louder than the wind outside. Every night since, at exactly 2:11 a.m., the moment her life ended, footsteps echoed across the hardwood, slow and deliberate. They always stopped at the hallway mirror. Last night, Ben forced himself to look. In the glass, he saw himself staring back, but the eyes weren't his. They were too still, too knowing. And then, they blinked when he didn't. That's when he knew he was the reflection. Ben returned to the house after Claire's funeral, the pine-scented air thick with loss. He and Claire had poured their hearts into this place, hammering every nail together. Now, it felt like a tomb, too quiet, too remote. No cell signal, no neighbors for miles. Each night, the silence shattered at 2:11 a.m. Footsteps creaked across the floors, moving toward the hallway mirror. Ben lay awake, pulse racing, waiting for them to stop. They always did, right at the glass, as if something was waiting for him to look. In Claire's study, Ben found a book hidden behind a shelf, The Art of Symmetry. Its pages were filled with diagrams of mirrors, reflections, and negative space. Claire's handwritten notes scrawled in the margins, frantic warnings about the other side and sketches of their house. But reversed, like a twisted blueprint. One note, circled in red. Red. It sees through symmetry. Ben's hands shook as he read, her words blurring together. Had Claire been unraveling this mystery before she died? Was this why she'd grown so distant, locking herself away? One night, drowning in whiskey and sorrow, Ben stumbled to the lake's edge. The house loomed under the moonlight. Then he saw it, a figure on a second-floor balcony. His heart stopped. The house had no second floor. He rushed inside, climbing to the attic, finding only dust and a slanted ceiling. The next morning, sober, he looked again from the lake. A balcony jutted from the house, clear as day. He blinked, and it vanished. The house seemed to pulse, as if it knew he'd seen it. Ben drove to the sheriff's office, demanding Claire's case file. The officer, hesitant, handed it over. The gun, a .38 revolver, wasn't Claire's. Her 9mm was still locked in their safe. The blood spatter on the wall was stranger, a perfect mirror image, as if someone had stood on the other side, copying her final act. Ben's stomach twisted. Claire's last words echoed. "Don't trust what you see." He hadn't understood then. Now, he feared he was starting to. At 2:10 a.m., Ben stood before the hallway mirror, the house pitch black except for a trembling candle. His reflection looked normal at first. Then, at 2:11, the footsteps came slow, deliberate, stopping behind him. He stared into the glass. His reflection smiled, but he wasn't smiling. Its eyes were too wide, too black. The candle snuffed out. In the darkness, the mirror cracked, a sound like snapping bone. When Ben lit a match, the glass was whole, but his reflection had vanished. Ben woke to whispers seeping through the walls, Claire's voice, soft and desperate. "Ben, come to me." But the tone was wrong, like someone mimicking her after a single hearing. He pressed his ear to the wall, heart pounding. The voice came from the other side, where only empty space should be the lake beyond. The whispers grew louder, colder. "Ben, I'm waiting." The air thickened, the house seeming to breathe with him, watching him. Ben tore apart Claire's study, finding a hidden panel behind a bookshelf. Inside were architectural plans labeled the negative house. It was their home, but inverted doors on opposite sides, windows facing inward. A basement was drawn below the existing one, marked with a chilling note. Not a house, a trap for him. Ben's blood ran cold. Who was him? Claire had never shown him these plans. Had she been building something to hold not them, but it? In the forest near the lake, Ben froze. A woman stood among the pines, her face half-shadowed. She called herself Sarah and said she'd dated Ben years ago. "You brought me here," she said, her voice hollow. "You always do. Then you forget." Ben's mind reeled. He'd never met her, yet she knew the scar on his wrist, the tune he hummed while cooking. She said Claire had confronted her, warned her to leave. Before Ben could speak, Sarah melted into the trees, her words lingering like a curse. Ben pieced it together. Claire hadn't built the house to live in. It was a prison. Her notes described a reflection entity, a thing that lived in the negative space of mirrors, mimicking souls to cross into the world. Claire had known it was after Ben, had tried to trap it. Her suicide was a sacrifice to keep it from taking him, but it hadn't worked. Now, it was slipping into his life, wearing his face, watching from every reflective surface. Claire's death was a ritual. Ben realized she'd shot herself in front of the mirror to trick the entity, to bind it to her reflection instead of his. It needed a willing soul. Claire gave hers, but the mirror wanted Ben's. The ritual had failed, and the entity was still here. Ben started losing time, hours gone, waking in the forest with mud on his boots, no memory of leaving. At night, the footsteps grew closer, louder. He saw himself in windows, in the lake, always with that wrong smile. It wasn't just watching, it was becoming him. Ben smashed the hallway mirror with a sledgehammer, glass shattering across the floor. By morning, it was whole again, as if untouched. That night, at 2:11 a.m., he saw himself step out of the glass. His double held the 38, revolver from Claire's death. Pressed it to its temple, then turned away, grinning. "Not your turn yet," it whispered in Ben's voice, warped and hollow. The double walked back into the mirror, leaving Ben trembling, alone. In the basement, Ben found a hidden door, just as Claire's plans showed. It led to a staircase descending into darkness. At the bottom was a replica of their house, every detail mirrored. But wrong. The light was dim, unnatural, like it was drowning. In the center stood a mirror, not glass but liquid, shaped like a person. Ben's reflection stared back, untethered to his movements. It was waiting, patient and hungry. Ben sat before the human-shaped mirror, his double mimicking him perfectly. They raised their hands together, a silent ritual. Then Ben stopped moving. His reflection didn't. It smiled, slow and deliberate, and stepped forward. The air grew heavy, the room tilting. Ben tried to stand, but his body was frozen. He was in the mirror now, staring out at his double, who walked freely into the house. The last thing Ben saw was his own face, grinning, as the door to the negative house slammed shut. My name was Ben Harper. I built a house to love her. She turned it into a prison to save me, but I stayed too long. If you hear footsteps at 2:11 a.m., don't look at the mirror. One of us still needs to leave. Just pray it's not the one watching you back.